We are here today because there is sobering news, which is that the USDA has let us know that they will not be funding the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program beginning on November 1st. It's just a few days away. Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, we call it SNAP. It's a critical hunger prevention program, the most critical hunger prevention program in our nation. It helps bridge the gap between people who need food and food access, helping more than 680,000 people in the state of Maryland alone. Nationwide, SNAP provides 9 meals for every 1 meal provided by the charitable food system. And for context, the Maryland Food Bank served 1 million people in our state last year. So you can see the enormity of the SNAP program. SNAP supports both neighbors and it supports food retailers. SNAP efficiently provides dollars directly to individual people that live at or just above the federal poverty level, and they then use those dollars to purchase food from food retailers in their communities. The need in Maryland has been high for some time. We were already beginning to see the influx of federal furloughed workers on top of historically high levels of food insecurity that came out of the pandemic, and those levels never went down. So the SNAP stoppage will have an immediate effect on even more Marylanders, and we can already see this happening, even today. We've been seeing more website visits to our Find Food page, more phone calls to our front desk from people asking about SNAP. What is it? How do I qualify? How might I qualify? On Friday alone, just a couple days ago, we received 4,000 website visits to our Find Food page. We have never seen those numbers before. So I want to share a little bit about how the Maryland Food Bank works and what we're planning in terms of a response to the loss of SNAP benefits. Our top priority has always been to provide nutritious food to people in need, and that will not change. The Maryland Food Bank provides food primarily through a network, a statewide network of nearly 800 community-based partners, mostly food pantries, and people who need food can access those pantries. And we distributed nearly 52 million pounds of food through this distribution network last year. So it's very dynamic, very active. We are always prepared, and us and the network together, always prepared to meet the demand. However, the loss of SNAP benefits has never happened before. During previous government shutdowns, SNAP was there. During the pandemic, SNAP benefits were increased. We've never been in a situation where SNAP benefits have been taken off the table. And so, of course, we are very concerned. We're going to do everything we can at the Maryland Food Bank to meet the expected surge in need. And I will pause here for just a second to shout out the incredible talent, dedication, expertise of the Maryland Food Bank staff here in Halethorpe in Baltimore County, in Salisbury, and in Hagerstown. Our team is the best equipped group of people to handle the situation that our state could want. So I give that to you all as a way to feel a little bit better. Certainly makes me feel better. Our team is just incredible. So this week, I'm proud to say that we are going to begin to purchase food. And we're working on the numbers, but we believe it to be today upwards of $3 million worth of food purchasing that will start now, that will begin to ramp up and carry us forward through the month of November. And so we're doing that so that our partners can order purchased food, not donated food, but purchased food from us and have it delivered at no cost. We're also working with the City of Baltimore to support food pantries there and to expand home-delivered groceries above and beyond the total that we're doing today, which is about 4,000 home-delivered grocery boxes per month. So that number will increase in November as well. We'll have more details to share in the coming days as our strategy is refined, but we are guided by our top priority, which is getting food to people and to our network partners across the state as quickly and as efficiently as we possibly can, and to the level that we can. So this is also an important an important part of this. The Maryland Food Bank is not going to be able to fill the gap that's being caused by the loss of SNAP benefits. To meet even 15% of the need that this gap will create, we would have to quadruple our output nearly overnight. So as mighty as we may be, and we are an amazing organization, I stand behind us every day of the year, that is an impossible task for us, and it would be for any organization. But we are here for Maryland. That is why you have a food bank. So coming out of the summer, we were keenly aware and paying close attention to the fact that changes to the SNAP program and to Medicaid that were announced are going to pose and are posing significant challenges for neighbors. Food costs are very high, historically high levels. It's getting harder and harder to put food on the table for people in our state. 1 in 3 Marylanders are facing food insecurity, even without the difficult challenges placed on us by the government shutdown. So while we're paying very close attention to this moment, there's also a longer-term challenge that awaits us once this begins to settle down, and we are paying attention to that as well. The challenge will still be there when the government gets back up and running. So we know that there's been an outpouring of support and interest, and we are so incredibly grateful and appreciative of that. We know that people want to help. And so there's a few ideas that I'd like to put out there for folks to do. Please call or write your elected officials. Let them know that SNAP needs to be back up and running, and the government needs to be back up and running so that the programs that we all rely on as citizens are available to us. There may be a food pantry in your community that could use your help. So use the Find Food app on our website. Look for that food pantry and see if you can help them directly. That will be fantastic. And you can always support the Maryland Food Bank. You can visit our website, which is mdfoodbank.org, and find ways to help there. So with that, I think, let me just pause and make sure I didn't miss anything. Yep, I think those are all the things I wanted to share as prepared remarks. And I invite you to start to ask some questions if you have some. Yes.
Tommy Clark with Channel 11 News.
Hi, Tommy.
How is the food bank going to afford this? Where's the money coming from? How is this possible?
So we are fortunate to be able to have inventory on hand. So when we need to start moving food next week, we have inventory in our buildings that we can begin to do that work with. When we look to start to replace that inventory, replenish it, and increase the amount of food that we can distribute, we're going to rely on support from external sources, and that might be our local government, it might be our state, it might be private funding community, it might be individual donors just like you and me. So we'll be looking for additional resources to be able to backfill the costs. We have been through this before. When the government shut down before, we committed ourselves. We said we're going to do the work, and we're going to just assume that the money will be there to pay for it. So we'll take that same tact again this time.
Chris Cheon with WBAL Radio.
Hi, Chris.
Just, I guess, the gravity of this issue upcoming, how big is it? What would you say to people that might live in affluent areas of our state? We have plenty of them that might say, I don't know anybody that's going any hungry. I don't really think it's a major issue. What would you say to people like that? And how big of an issue really is this?
Right, it's a fantastic question. Thank you for that one. If you go back to the idea that 1 in 3 Marylanders are food insecure, that means 1 in 3 people. And food insecurity lives below the federal poverty line, it lives at the federal poverty line, and it lives way above the federal poverty line. Maryland is a wonderful state that we're all blessed to live in. It's a very expensive state. And so when salaries aren't there, even for working families, to make ends meet, people are accessing additional resources. Sometimes they're asking friends and family for help. Sometimes they're going to a local food pantry. It's also the kind of situation that people aren't talking about it. So if your neighbor sitting next to you is going to a food pantry, you may not know it. You're going into a business or you're going to work. There are people around you who are accessing food assistance. You just aren't aware of it. You're not hearing about it. So it's often invisible, which is a challenge sometimes in terms of awareness. Sometimes people do think, well, how big of an issue can it be? Well, we're tracking it, we're analyzing it, our staff is paying attention to this all day long, and we can tell you that it's a very big challenge here in our state. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hi, Sarah Bird with Baltimore Banner.
Hi, Sarah.
I'm curious if any of the changes to SNAP benefits this summer have exacerbated the issue at all, if you could speak to that.
Right. So yes, they have exacerbated the issue. The numbers are not the same as the full loss of SNAP benefits because the impacted, parts of the population that are impacted by those changes numerically are smaller, but we're also talking about people who are most vulnerable. So it's an accumulation it's an accumulated effect, and so work requirements, citizenship or legal status requirements are all coming into play now, and we know that benefits levels are going to contract, work requirements are going to get more stringent, and that is so we're at the beginning of that impact, but we expect that to exponentially increase. So yes, we are seeing it. It's just being dwarfed by the moment of the government shutdown and the loss of benefits. But that is the longer term situation that I was referring to, which is what we are really concerned about, because when we look at the impact of loss of food assistance benefits like SNAP, and we look at the loss of health care benefits like Medicaid, we know that Maryland citizens are going to be facing a variety of challenges in the next year to two that we haven't seen before. And oftentimes we're talking about, dual impacts to the same families and communities. So that's definitely the part that we look at when we say, how does the charitable food network, how does our network, how does our system today line up against the future challenge that we know is coming? And so those are the conversations that we're having at the state level and with state agencies now. Again, we got pulled off on this in November, right here, right now, but those are the longer term conversations that we need to have to make sure that the charitable food system is fully resourced to be a resource in the future. And that's going to be at a level that we're not at today. We couldn't begin to meet the need as more people come off the SNAP rolls or as more people lose Medicaid or other benefits. LIHEAP, the heating benefits are at risk as well. So there's a lot coming at folks, and that is really where, if we don't keep our eye on the longer term, then that's where we're going to really be in trouble. I'm confident we can navigate the short term. We can mitigate the impacts of this. We can't solve for it as a food bank, but we can mitigate. And there's lots of attention and lots of people who want to help. But the longer term question is the one that really is more complex and one that we really all need to be paying close attention to. So thank you for the question. Yep. Hi, Danny.
There is a lot of discussion at the state level of what to do in the meantime with these SNAP benefits not being available. There is some discussion as to, other governors have promised that they will fill in while these SNAP benefits are suspended. How do you think Maryland should approach this gap in funding? Should the state step in while the federal government is not doing so?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. It's one that I don't have a lot of information about in terms of what the state is thinking of doing. In general, I can say that the state has been a terrific partner to both the Maryland Food Bank and the Capital Area Food Bank. We get funding from them every year that allows us to distribute really good quality food to our network. I suspect they're paying close attention to this now, and if they knock on our door, we'll take the call.
Matt Hook from Bold Business.
Hi, Matt.
I just want to ask about how the federal cuts that happened earlier this year have impacted your ability to respond. Since I remember there's the Department of Agriculture cuts that really impacted your ability to buy fresh.
Thank you. That's also an excellent question. We came into planning for our fiscal year, which our planning phase is kind of March, April. So we came into the planning for our fiscal year having just found out that we lost funding through the local food production cooperative agreement, LFPA, which is what you're describing. That was fresh, local, Maryland produced food directly to food banks. And many of you have covered that story, so thank you for that. So that program has been canceled, so that funding is gone. We have seen a little bit of it come back. We were just informed by the Maryland Department of Agriculture that the part that we were able to use to purchase catfish out of the bay has come back from USDA, so a little bit of good news there. And we also heard that there were some cuts to our TFAP is another federally funded program. It's the Emergency Food Assistance Program. There were some modest cuts to that, which are impacting the amount of food that we can distribute today. So we are operating, our current state is that we are operating at 95% capacity, even though there's significant contractions to federal benefits programs, there's a government shutdown, and there's other challenges that we're facing. So not a place that we want to be. And so that's the conversations that we need to have in terms of getting ready for the future. Is we need to get back to 100% capacity, and we also have to get up and above that amount so that we can really be a even more impactful resource. But we are definitely starting. We're starting in a deficit position. But again, shout out to the staff here. We made a lot of quick, difficult decisions, and we're able to we were able to get back to that 95% operational number when we had actually the funding loss had pushed us lower than that. So we made some smart decisions, and so that's something to be proud of. So we're a really agile and resilient organization. We've dealt with shutdowns, we've dealt with pandemic. We like steady state because it allows us to be planful and to really focus on relationships, especially with our network of partners. But we're also really good when we have to make decisions fast. Yes.
Hi, Meg.
Hi.
Jeff Hager with Channel 2.
Hi, Jeff.
I saw that the mayor in Baltimore yesterday came up with some monies, including over $1 million, I think, that was going to the food bank. But he seemed to be earmarking it, saying that would just be for Baltimore residents. Does that open up Pandora's box a bit if locals start tossing money and trying to earmark it for certain regions in the absence of the state coming in to look at the bigger picture?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And if it were any other local jurisdiction outside of probably Baltimore County, it might be a problem. But 25% of our food goes into Baltimore City. Probably 20% of our partners, our food pantry partners, are located in Baltimore City. Half our school pantry program, we have 200 school pantries we work with, half of them are in the city. So we will be able to spend through that money without a problem. But other local jurisdictions, it would be an issue, especially if we're trying to reach, we have so many rural communities, and so reaching individual families who might be impacted by the loss of SNAP benefits or furloughed workers becomes more difficult when you're in a less dense setting. So again, we're optimistic that the support will be there, and as of now, it's not a problem, but it's a good question. It would be, but again, hopeful that there'll be broader support coming.
And is that 1.2, I think it was, million, is that part of the $3 million for the new food purchases?
Some of that will be, yes, some of that will be, because it's broken in, the Baltimore City funding is broken into two categories. One is for supporting our food pantries. So that means making sure that we have inventory here that is up on our menu that our food pantries can order. And then about half of that is for the home delivered grocery boxes, which again is inventory we have to keep on hand, but we're already in a contract with Baltimore City to deliver those home deliver those grocery boxes. We produce them, and then Amazon supports the home delivery piece of it. So their flex drivers are doing that work. So it's a separate stream. But yes, both. I mean, the only tricky part for us around that is just making sure that we have adequate inventory for both, so that they don't run into each other. But we're paying attention to that, so I think we'll be okay.
One last follow-up. When you mentioned the 680,000 people in Maryland on SNAP, I've heard another figure, but for children. Do you know what the children breakout is from that?
I do not know that number. Does anybody here know it, though? We have a lot of our team here. Ann in the back.
270,000.
There you go. Thank you. Other thoughts, questions?
My loud click and choose.
Yeah. Well, I would say again, thank you for coming out today. Thank you for covering the story. It's really important. It's a fast change. It's a fast moving story. We may know things in 2 days that we don't know today. We may have more specific ideas in 2 days that we don't have today. So please stay in touch with us, and we're happy to keep you informed so you can keep your listeners and readers informed, and viewers as the situation changes. But appreciate the partnership. And I will say too that over the past few days, the phones have been ringing off the hook here, and not just at the front desk from people looking for food, from places and agencies and organizations and funders all across the state saying, Maryland Food Bank, what do you need? How can we help? And our individual donors are showing up too. Our volunteers are calling. So we are really a center for response and assistance, and so that is a reminder to us of the importance of the work we do, the importance of the role that we play in the state, and our organization is ready to meet the moment. So I feel really proud of us right now.